We're in the book of Ruth. I'm still sort of giving you a preview of the book of Ruth, and I'm not going to have a whole bunch of notes on Ruth, just because Ruth is one of those feminine books. I don't know. Now, I know. Well, y'all do your own book on it. There's plenty of note paper in the back. Now, I will cover several things in the book of Ruth. So to start with, you can turn to Isaiah 54.
That is so in the book of Ruth.
Yes. Isaiah 54.
You can't even stay in Ruth to talk about
Ruth receives an inheritance. She becomes kin to Naomi, the Jew, through Boaz, through the marriage to Boaz. Naomi has restored her with has restored to her all that was lost prior because of her wandering into a foreign country that she shouldn't have been in. When the story begins to change, it changes in a good way. Isaiah 54, verse 5. It says, "Thy Maker is thine husband, the Lord of hosts is his name, thy Redeemer, the Holy One of Israel." Isaiah 54, verse 5. "The God of the whole earth shall he be called." Okay, this is talking about, in the book of Ruth, it's a picture of God and his bride. His bride is Israel, the nation, the Jews as a people. Now you think, okay, but Ruth isn't a Jew. No, she's not, but neither were any of the Jews. They're supposed to say, my mother was a Syrian and my father was a Hittite. Or maybe I got it reversed. However that goes. But father's the Syrian. Yeah, father's a Syrian and mother's a Hittite. So neither of them were Jews. God chose a people out of heathens. Well, that's what happens with Ruth. Ruth was a heathen, but she got into the right line. She became a Jew just by marriage. Israel as a nation will be married to Jehovah God in the millennium and eternity. Now, we get a marriage too, but ours is not to Jehovah God. Ours is to Jesus Christ. We're the bride of Christ, not the bride of God. Isaiah 62, verse 4. It says, "Thou shalt no more be termed forsaken." Okay, and that's what they were when they were in the land of Moab in the book of Ruth. "Neither shall thy land any more be termed desolate." That's why she ran from Israel to Moab, because it was desolate. There was a famine. "But thou shalt be called," that name right there. How do you say that? Hephzibah. "And thy land Beulah." I can say that one. For the Lord delighteth in thee, and thy land shall be married." Okay, it's not only a people for God, it's actual dirt. That land belongs to God. Over and over in the Bible, you'll see him take special note of that property right there belongs to me, nobody else. In fact, this isn't in your notes, but I'll find it real quick, I think. I think it's Leviticus. God's really specific when it comes to that Jew, because that is his bride. And he's very protective of both the land and the people. And of course, I won't be able to find this when I want it. No, here it is. Leviticus chapter 25, verse 23. Leviticus 25:23. This is God talking about the land, Israel, the dirt. "The land shall not be sold forever, for the land is mine." Well, okay, isn't the whole earth his? Sure it is. But he says there's something extra special about this land that I'm not going to let anybody have any part of. I'm giving it to a specific person, and you had better not let anybody have it. It's yours. No Indian givers. For ye are strangers and sojourners with me. Jeremiah chapter 50, verse 34. Jeremiah 50, verse 34. It says, their Redeemer is strong. The Lord of hosts is his name. He shall thoroughly plead their cause, that he may give rest to the land and disquiet the inhabitants of Babylon. That's talking about what's going to happen at the tribulation. God's going to repay Babylon, the heathens. Why? It's connected to that dirt, to the land. I'm going to give the land rest. That land is my land. Had a bunch of heathens running around on there claiming they own it, and I'm not happy about it. That's what God's saying. He's particular about land. He made this whole earth. And if he says one little spot is special to me and nobody touch it, then I think we could do that, you know. Why do we have to have the one spot that he says nobody can have? It's like telling a kid, you can have anything in this room, but don't touch this right here. Now I'm going to go in the other room, and I know you won't touch it, right? It's the first thing they're going for. Right. Uh-huh. Yep. Well, that's the same way with Israel. So now every nation has gone after that land. Look at the Middle East right now. It's always been in turmoil. Everybody wants to chop it up and encroach farther and farther into it. It's just proof that there's something special about it, and they know it. Hosea chapter 2, verse 19. This is God the Father speaking to Israel as a nation. Hosea 2, verse 19. And I will betroth thee unto me forever. Betroth as in a wife. I will betroth thee unto me in righteousness, and in judgment, and loving kindness, and in mercies. I will even betroth thee unto me in faithfulness, and thou shalt know the Lord. That's the millennium. That's what Matthew chapter 5, 6, and 7 is all about. That's the Beatitudes. Beatitudes don't have anything to do with our doctrine and the things that we do or don't do. It has to do with a kingdom setup for the millennium, what the Jews will be ruled over by. So if we want to know what we're ruled by, we go get the Constitution. Well, not that they use it anymore, but that's the way it's supposed to work. And find the rules and regulations that are on the books. That's the rules and regulations for the millennium. Those things don't apply to church age. We got to go there now. Matthew chapter 5. Let's just look at something real quick. Matthew 5. This is the Beatitudes. Matthew 5, let's look at verse 3. He says, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Now, we've already done a discourse on the kingdom of heaven versus the kingdom of God. The kingdom of heaven talks about actual ground, as in the land of Israel, as in millennium. Okay, so let's look at that verse. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. We don't preach that. If you're going to make the kingdom of heaven where people go when they die if they're saved, then that means you've got to tell people unless they're poor in spirit. Are we looking for a bunch of sad people? Okay. No. So that's talking about something totally different. Verse 4, blessed are they that mourn, for they shall be comforted. Well, a lot of them are mourning that don't get comforted. Look at the Jews under Hitler. Okay. So it has to do with something else. It has to do with Jesus Christ ruling, and when he's ruling, he does something about someone mourning. He comforts them. He's not doing it right now. Somebody else is ruling, the God of this world. Verse 5, blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Really? Is that what you want? You want the earth? I don't want any part of this earth. What I'm going for is something way bigger than this earth. Heaven. That's my destiny. Mine is, in my Father's house are many mansions. That's where I'm heading, not this earth. But somebody's looking for this earth. It's the Jew. It's what we've just been reading. I'm going to give you the land. This is yours. And that will be in the millennium. Look at verse 8. He says, "Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God." Okay, we got to think about that a little bit. Pure in heart. Is anybody in here pure in heart?
No.
It's impossible, because the Bible says the heart's deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. So how could you be pure in heart? Well, you can't, unless the king is ruling and he's given you a new heart, like he will do in the millennium. He says, "I'll write my law in their heart and in their minds." Okay, then you've been given it. Now you've got the ability to have pure heart, but not now. Let's keep reading. He says, "They shall see God." I don't think so. Everybody's going to. Every knee shall bow and every tongue shall confess. Okay, so whether you're saved or lost, you're going to see God at a judgment. So it's talking about something totally different here. He's talking about you'll see God sitting on a throne in Zion, which is Jerusalem, ruling and reigning. That's where we are here with the book of Ruth. It's Israel pictured coming into what they've been promised. After going through desolation, being out of their land, persecuted, losing everything just about that they have, and then all of a sudden they get it all back. That's going to happen for Israel, the nation. After the tribulation, they get it all back. Ruth chapter 1, verse 1. Ruth chapter 1, verse 1. Yes, that's the introduction. That only took 3 lessons. That's because I'm not keen on Ruth. Ruth chapter 1, verse 1. "Now it came to pass in the days when the judges ruled that there was a famine in the land, and a certain man of Bethlehem, Judah, went to sojourn in the country of Moab, he, his wife, and his 2 sons." Okay, so there's a famine. This happens, of course, in the time of the judges. So it happens in the time period of the book right before it. So the book of Judges is not necessarily, this is all that happens and that's it. No, there's some things you're not given in the book of Judges that are going on. One of them is right here. There's a famine, and somebody flees for bread. They go to Moab. They feared death, but in running to Moab, they ran straight into it. She lost just about everybody. All 3 men died in the land of their supposed escape. It didn't happen the way they had planned. Look at Judges chapter 6, verse 3 to 4, and we'll see where this famine takes place under the judges. Judges 6, verse 3 to 4. Now, Judges 6 is about who? Just skim over that passage and you'll see who's judging. Judges 5 is who? Gideon. No, Judges 5 is Deborah. So who comes after Deborah? It's right there in the passage. Gideon. Okay, Gideon. That's the one. Okay, so during the time period of Gideon, Israel's going through some trouble. Let's see it, verse 3. Judges 6, verse 3. "And so it was when Israel had sown that the Midianites came up, and the Amalekites and the children of the east, even they came up against them. And they camped against them, and destroyed the increase of the earth, till thou comest unto Gaza, and left no sustenance for Israel, neither sheep nor oxen nor ass." So, it's not that there wasn't the ability to grow something. It was that the famine was due to the enemy was too strong. The enemy destroyed it. They couldn't grow anything. Even though the land could have produced it, the famine wasn't due to a drought. It wasn't due to lack of seed. It was due to the enemy would steal it as soon as it was ready to be plucked. So they say, okay, we got to get out of this game. Let's go join forces with Moab. They got plenty because they came and took all ours. So we know they got some, but they won't have it long. Matthew 16, verse 25. Matthew 16, 25. You don't see God telling Naomi and her husband, hey, everything's dried up here. Go join the enemy and you can live off of the stuff they stole from you. Matthew 16:25. This is Jesus' words. He says, for whosoever will save his life shall lose it, and whosoever shall lose his life for my sake shall find it. So the answer is not in finding your own answer. The answer is finding a person who is the answer. Jesus Christ, and for Israel, it was Jehovah God, and following what he said, regardless of what looked like was in the cupboard. Many times he's filled that cupboard when they didn't have anything that, humanly speaking, would fill it. Ruth 1, verse 3. Ruth 1:3. And Elimelech, Naomi's husband, died, and she was left, and her 2 sons. Naomi dies, or Naomi doesn't go back to the house of bread. That's where she came from. Where'd she come from? Bethel? Where is she? What's her city? Verse 1, Bethlehem, Judah. That's the house of bread is what it means. She doesn't go back to the house of bread because the bread had all been stolen. That was just the house of, that was the supply house for the Moabites. They were coming in and taking it all. Even though it was the house of bread. It was the bread factory, but it wasn't available for Jews. She doesn't go back there when her husband dies. She doesn't think about returning until she finds the bread where she is gone. Then all of a sudden she says, hey, I've been here before. Now that's both stupid and smart. Here's the stupid thing. The stupid thing is she should not have left to begin with. She was already at the house of bread. She's doing everything. She's chasing the stock market a day late. That's what she's doing. It's like the person who says, oh, that stock just went up. I'm going to go buy it. Well, that's the wrong time to buy it. It just went up. Everybody's selling. It's dropping. Okay, I'm going to go sell mine. No, that's the time to go buy some more. That's what she's doing. She's doing everything just at the wrong time. Now, she got it right eventually. But to begin with, she says, hey, we don't have any bread here. I'm leaving. No, write it out. She got to Moab. Well, they run out of bread. Okay, they don't have any bread. I'm leaving. We've got to make sure we're not doing things based on what we want or what we perceive is the answer. Our perceived answers usually end the way this does. It doesn't turn out the way we're doing it, and we're doing it a day late. Her refusal to leave the heathen country follows tragedy after tragedy. The death of her husband, the marriages of her 2 boys to women that they should not have married. Ruth 1, verse 6. Then she arose with her daughters-in-law, that she might return from the country of Moab, for she had heard in the country of Moab how that the Lord had visited his people and given them bread. Okay, you didn't wait long enough. That's probably our problem too. We say, okay, God, I need this, and I need this, and I want it right now. It's not that he's not going to do it. It's that we just told him when to do it. We feel the same way. When somebody tells you, you're going to go mow that yard and you're going to do it within the next 5 minutes. You know what you say? Well, we'll see about that. I'll do it in 8 minutes. See what you think about that. Okay? Well, when we tell God he's going to do something, he's going to do it on this date and this way, rarely does he ever do it that way. Look at Gideon. Gideon has the same issue. He says, okay, God, prove to me you are who you are. So he puts a fleece out there, and God does the trick he wants on his fleece, and he says, okay, that was a good one. Let me give you another one. I'm not sure, maybe somebody snuck up here and heard me talking, and here's another fleece. He does that thing 3 times. He questions God. So what's God do? He says, okay, boy, go out there and get you an army. He goes out there and produces a huge army. God says, okay, remember what you did to me? 3 times you questioned me. We're going to chop this thing down 3 times. So be careful demanding and questioning God. That's her problem. Deuteronomy 7, verse 3. Deuteronomy 7, verse 3. Now she goes into Moab. Naomi goes into Moab with two sons, two Jews, and they marry women of Moab, which is wrong. According to the law, that should not be done. Deuteronomy 7, verse 3. Neither shalt thou make marriages with them. Thy daughters thou shalt not give unto his sons, nor his daughters shalt thou take unto thy sons. That is, no intermarrying there. Chapter 23, Deuteronomy 23, verse 3. Deuteronomy 23, 3. Of all the heathen places they could have gone, they chose Moab. God does not like Moab. You know who Moab and the sister is, Ammon? Lot's daughters. The result of incest. Deuteronomy 23, verse 3. An Ammonite or a Moabite shall not enter into the congregation of the Lord, even to their 10th generation shall they not enter into the congregation of the Lord forever. Okay, she should have known all of this, he should have known all of this, and the boys should have known it. They go in, and what happens? Wrong place, wrong time, wrong associations, and what do you know? They fall in love. They got to get married. They should have gone by what they knew, what they had been taught growing up, what they had been forced to memorize. You know, a Jew had to memorize the first 5 books of the Bible. I don't know how in the world they did it. I can't get people to read the first 5 books of the Bible. I mean, seriously. But they did. So they knew this stuff. This was not something that just snuck up on them. Ruth chapter 1, verse 5. Ruth 1, verse 5. Okay, we know what 5 is. In the Bible, 5 is the number of death. So we expect to find death here. And Maliam and Chilion died also, both of them. And the woman was left of her 2 sons and her husband. Now, no husband, no 2 boys. They're gone. All she has left are people she shouldn't be associating with anyway. 2 heathens that she's built a bond with. Ruth 1, verse 14. Ruth 1:14. And they lifted up their voice and wept again. And Orpah kissed her mother-in-law Ruth, but Ruth clave unto her. And she said, Behold, thy sister-in-law is gone back unto her people, and unto her gods. Return thou after thy sister-in-law. Okay, so here's the 2 sister-in-laws. Naomi says, look, I'm leaving. I'm out of here. Too much bad stuff has happened here. I'm gone. And besides that, they got bread again. I'm going to go back and get in line. The 2 daughter-in-laws say, okay, well, we're coming with you. I mean, you've been supporting them, so I would think they would come with you. And she says, no, I tell you what, it's better for you not to, because I don't have any more sons I can give you, which is weird. Well, I don't know why she would come up with that. That's a Jewish law. Look at the end of the book of Moses and you find Judah and all that story. And I'll let y'all read it and figure out what I'm saying. But if the son dies, the wife is supposed to wait around till you have another one, and then they'll get married. So they can raise up seed. That's a Jewish thing. That's not a heathen thing. But now she's treating them as though they're all part of the same Jewish tribe or something, when they're not. Look at Matthew 19, verse 22. Orpah, one of the daughter-in-laws, hears all of what's going on, and she wanted to go back with Naomi, but then she said, hey, you know, you're right. You got the Midas touch on backwards. Everything you touch falls apart. You were in Israel over there and they ran out of bread. You came over here, now we ran out of bread. Maybe I ought to just stay here. You and Ruth have a good time. Matthew 19:22. But when the young man had heard that saying, he went away sorrowful, for he had great possessions. This is Jesus Christ talking to a young man who wants to do right, he thinks, until he gets some bad news. It's going to cost you more than you want to pay. Okay? Go through some sorrow if the payout is from God. If the payout's from the devil, it's never going to pay. But if the payout's from God, you can count on it. It's way better than even you imagine. And it did turn out way better for Ruth than they could have imagined. Orpha, we don't hear from her again. Who knows? They were running out of bread. I don't know if she died. Who knows? We do know what happens to Ruth. She gets plenty of bread. She gets a whole field of it. In Ruth 1, verse 20. Ruth 1:20. This is Naomi having a bad day. Naomi's a little depressed here. And she said unto them, Call me not Naomi, call me Mara, for the Almighty hath dealt very bitterly with me. Okay. She blames all of her tragedies on God. Don't do that. Don't do that. Even though he's in control, and even though he allows or doesn't allow something to happen in your life, don't be blaming him for bad things. If you think hard enough, you can find a reason that it's your fault too. Okay? There seems to be a natural inclination for us to blame God. That's just the first thing. That's first nature. God could have stopped this, so he's to blame because he didn't. That's a lot of what happens. That's a lot of what keeps people from coming to Christ, is they'll say, oh, I saw a bad thing happen over here, and if there is a God, he would have stopped that. Okay? Not necessarily. What makes a more powerful God is to deliver out of a situation, or let you go through something and then show you his goodness. That's a real God. God didn't ask her to return to Moab. To run to Moab. She did that on her own. But she didn't blame herself for that one. She didn't say, I've dealt bitterly with myself because I ran where I wasn't supposed to run when I wasn't supposed to go. No, she says God did it. It's all God's fault. All right. I've got a bunch of notes there, but we're going to skip through. Hebrews 12, verse 6. What? We got a late start, so I'm trying to whittle it down to about 3 hours tonight. Hebrews 12, verse 6. Don't get depressed with circumstances. You're not under any unique circumstance that 1 million people in this world aren't going through the same one just like you. We're nothing special. Every issue we feel like is unique to us, nobody's ever had it as bad as me. Guess what? They all have. Matter of fact, the one we follow has. It says Jesus Christ was tempted in all points like as us, yet without sin. So you don't have any temptation, any problem, any struggle that he didn't have the same type. Not the very same one, but the same type, the same root. In Hebrews 12, verse 6, he says, For whom the Lord loveth, he chasteneth. Some people get more love than others. And scourgeth every son whom he receiveth. So, you can take confidence in that. Okay, I'm going through something right now, but God has revealed to me why. Well, that's good. That means you got a dad that cares.
Amen.
It means you're getting punished for something, and now you know what it was for, and you'll fix it so you won't do it the next time. Okay, take the positive spin on it.
That's right.
Ruth 1, verse 21. Let's see what happens when you start getting sarcastic and defaming God. This is the natural thing that happens when we blame God. Ruth 1:21. The Bible says in, I believe it's Job, he says, let God be, no, it's not Job. Somewhere in that book, y'all read it. He said, let God be true and every man a liar. Sounds good to me. It's all good. So God is true, and man naturally is a liar, just on his own. When he starts spouting off his own philosophies and what he thinks sound good and coming up with his imitation Bible. I hate all these witty sayings you see all over Facebook and everywhere. Everybody's a Yogi Bear, you know, they've got something real smart to say. But you start tracking it down long enough, you find it's just a bunch of lies. Unless it's from the truth, the source of truth, the Bible, there's nothing in it. She says, Ruth 1:21, I went out full, and the Lord hath brought me home again empty. Why then call you me Naomi, seeing the Lord hath testified against me, and the Almighty hath afflicted me? Got a little attitude problem there. She says, I went out full. Then why did you go? If you had everything you needed where you were, stay on that one. Sit right there. Open up shop. That's not why she went out. She went out because she was seeking something. She wasn't getting what she wanted. She left. A lot of times our problems come because we left where we should have been. We start seeking something, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. They needed bread. Bread's a good thing. You need to live. It's a good thing to eat every now and then. You know, you need food. He says, having food and raiment, let us therewith be content. He knows you need some food. Okay, she needed some food, but she went to the wrong source for it. Don't go to Moab to get your victuals. They don't have any good ones. If she was full when she left, she shouldn't have left. She's got selective memory. Suddenly she's changed this whole thing as though she's arguing in court against God. First of all, there wasn't any court. And if there was a court, God's going to be the judge. So throw that whole argument right out. Forget that one. Ruth chapter 2, verse 4. She goes in there, you know the story. She finds this field, and there's a certain man that owns this field. Ruth 2, verse 4. And behold, Boaz came from Bethlehem and said unto the reapers, the Lord be with you. And they answered him, the Lord bless thee. Boaz was the son of who? Rahab. You know who Rahab is? Rahab is the harlot. You remember Jericho. When they first came into the land, they marched around the walls of Jericho. They sent some spies in to spy out the land. A harlot gave them the information they needed, and then she protected them. They said, okay, we'll protect you. Hang a red cord out your window, and when we take this city apart, we're going to leave you and whoever's in this house safe. Okay, obviously Rahab became a devout believer because it's her son, Boaz, who's doing all this, Lord bless you, Lord bless you. Okay, she raised a good kid. She had seen some real trouble, but she had seen the hand of God, and it meant something, and she passed it on to her son. Now God means something to him. He didn't up and leave when the famine hit. I'm sure his field got taken advantage of too by the Moabites. But he didn't leave. He stayed where he was supposed to be. Okay, there's some good stuff about this guy. In Matthew 1, verse 5, Matthew 1, verse 5, we'll find the genealogy of Boaz. Now, you have to read carefully. There's a difference between Hebrew and Greek. The difference is they're different languages. That was wise, wasn't it? Right. So when you translate out of Hebrew into Greek, sometimes the same word will be a little different spelling and pronunciation. Matthew 1, verse 5. And Salmon begat Boaz, only it says booze. It doesn't mean alcohol. It didn't say Salmon begged for some booze. I'm telling you what it doesn't say, okay? Yeah, that would be original Aramaic. And Salmon begat, that's Boaz of Rahab. And Boaz begat Obed of Ruth. And Obed begat Jesse. That's the line that comes right down to David the king. You know who Jesse begats? Jesse begats David the king. David. Yep, the king. All right, Ruth 2, verse 8. We're going to learn a term. Then said Boaz unto Ruth, hearest thou not, my daughter? Go not to glean in another field, neither go from thence, but abide here, what's that word? Fast, by my maidens. Okay, so what's he telling her? Stay right here. Stay fast. Stay quickly. Fast. This is to tell you how the Bible works. It means to stay close, to stay near. So that word is going to continue to be defined that way in the Bible. So when you find fast, what's it mean? Near or close. So when you fast, what do? You get close to God. You should. It's not a time to afflict your soul so that people can watch you. That's you becoming close to people. That's far. That's far out, man. The fast should be to make you close to God. Just like here, she was supposed to stay fast to the maidens. She was supposed to stay right with them. But this is the Bible. The King James, the real Bible, will define itself by itself. You don't need to run to Greek and Hebrew. All you need is a Bible and a dictionary. Look up the terms. Not a dictionary, a concordance. So if I wanted to know what fast meant, I could take the word fast and look up every time it's used. And then by the time you've run all the references on what it says, you'll come up with what it means. It will define itself. That's a unique book. It's God-breathed. Luke 2, verse 12. Luke 2, verse 12. He says, the Lord recompense thy work, and a full reward be given thee of the Lord God of Israel.
Did you say Luke or Ruth?
I don't know. Where was I? Ruth.
No wonder I couldn't find that.
Y'all start in Ruth and read backwards, and I'll start. Ruth 2, verse 12. It said, the Lord recompense thy work, and a full reward be given thee of the Lord God of Israel, under whose wings thou art come to trust. Okay, somebody gets a full reward. And this is for us as well. If you'll work in the right field, the one right around you, that God's given you, and you'll stay right there, hold fast to it, not go running off to another one, you can get something. You can get a full reward for that work. And you will. In 2 John chapter 1, verse 8. 2 John 1, verse 8. Second John 1:8, he says, look to yourselves, that we lose not those things which we have wrought, but that we receive a full reward. Okay, so that's both positive and negative. when you work, when you're doing what you're supposed to for God in the way He shows you, He rewards you for it. Now, He does reward here, but that ain't the big reward. The big reward is for eternity, because here won't last long. Eternity lasts forever. So that's where you want the reward, and that's where you'll get one too. But He's also saying there, be careful that you don't lose. So you could have earned some rewards and then lived your life in such a way that you begin to lose them. Your reward, your eternal security, is set in stone. Once you get saved in this age, it's forever. However, the awards and rewards are not forever. That's up to you how you live. The way you live your life dictates what you get on the other side. He says that you lose not the things which you've wrought, but get a full reward. Some people are going to show up with a half a crown.
So be consistent.
That's right. That's right. Consistency is important to God. He says it's required among stewards that a man be found faithful. That is, do the right thing. Not one. Anybody can do the right thing once. Anybody can. That's simple. It's hard to do the right thing every day for the rest of your life. Try this one. I'll give you a challenge. Try this. I'll give you two. Try this. Try to say, I'm going to read, let's make it simple. I'm going to read 3 verses every day for the rest of my life. 3 verses. That's it. You can do that. I'm telling you, you can do that. 3 verses. Now, watch and see how hard it is to do. It won't be long. Oh yeah, I didn't do that today. I'll make up for it tomorrow. Tomorrow comes and you don't do it either. It's hard to do the right thing consistently. You know what the right thing consistently is? A full reward. That's worth something. God knows the effort that goes into a full reward. And it's not necessarily those great big things that He's counting. It's the consistent little things He's counting. That's what matters. The saying no to the flesh and letting the Spirit control what this body does. That's hard. That's tough. All right, we better stop there or I'll go another hour. So.